Hi friends, welcome to my channel, The Dolly Mama. I am Carla. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. If you are new here, which many of you are, I just started my channel, please hit that like and subscribe button down below so you can be notified for all of my latest and greatest videos. So let's get started. So I wanted to talk about today the spiritual awakening and the process of it all, and how important it is to realize, and how can you realize and notice when you are going through the spiritual awakening. First and foremost, the spiritual awakening is in itself a process of awakening to truth, expanding your consciousness, and it is literally a diminishing of your ego. There's a lot of things that I did want to talk about, and first and foremost with the spiritual awakening, I did want to share a little bit about my personal experience and how that has helped me in so many great ways. And yes, spiritual awakenings are not pretty, but they can be so beautiful in a sense that they really awaken a lot of things that have been hidden within you, things that you didn't know about yourself, things that you basically had deeply buried and didn't even realize that you knew certain things or you liked certain things, and it just reawakens you, to who you really are. It's a journey about rediscovering you and coming back home, centered, heart-centered, to the real and true you. So during my spiritual awakening, I feel like I kind of got a glimpse of it back in 2018. However, I did not know what I know now in regards to spiritual awakenings. But when you go through a spiritual awakening, of course, it's very intense. When I went through mine in the beginning, the first time around, you can have more than one spiritual awakening. So heads up. The first time I went through mine back in 2018, it was really, really like traumatic. Like I went through a lot of, had a lot of chronic fatigue. And at the time, just like with anything, when you're going through this, you really have no idea what you're going through. You're like, oh my God, like what is happening to me? Something bad is happening to me. Oh my gosh, like please help me, save me, somebody. You're just like kind of like reaching out for anyone and everyone and going to doctors, hospitals, whatever. That is exactly what I did, because I wasn't sure like what was going on with me. It just seemed so out of the norm. And that's the biggest clue, is like when you're going through the spiritual awakening, what occurs is so out of the norm. Like it goes beyond the fatigue, like just like small fatigue or a cold or whatever. It literally is like it's like up a notch. And of course I had experienced like this insomnia and fatigue, whatever, for several weeks, and it just was not letting up. And at the time I was like, I really need to go see a doctor. Like I need to go see somebody. I thought I was dying. I thought it was, my time was coming. And I remember telling my mom, like, look, I didn't live with my mom, but I remember her helping me out, helping watch my daughter. But I told her, look, Mom, my time is coming. I have a feeling I am going to die. I literally cannot operate anything. I can't drive. Like I feel so dizzy. I feel like I'm just like thrown out of the loop. Like something's terribly wrong. And at the time she was just like, well, you're not dying. I don't think you're dying, but if you want, I'll take you to the hospital. So she did. She took me to the ER, and they took my vitals and checked all the normal things to see how I was and whatever. And they were like, you're fine. Like you're probably just stressed out. You probably just need some sleep, and you should just take Benadryl. Take Benadryl. It'll help you. You'll feel better once you get some rest, yada yada. And after I left the hospital, I will say part of me felt good in a sense where I was like, okay, there's nothing maybe seriously wrong with me, but maybe I just needed sleep. However, it continued. Like after the fatigue, it was like this like newer level of anxiety. I couldn't even be around like my husband. Like it was just a really bad like experience at the time. Like I needed that assistance from my mom. So I ended up moving in with my mom, and she helped, kind of like help me with my daughter, and like kind of helped me because I was tired all the time. Like all I wanted to do was sleep. And I kind of finally got to a point where I did spend a lot of time like reading a lot of spiritual books, and I just felt like I was kind of guided to it, like guided to read those things. And I did that. I just remember I ate super healthy because my body could not like digest, like it could not digest anything that was like toxic, anything fried, anything heavy, anything super artificial. Like my body would not tolerate it. So I literally like had salads every day, lean meat, chicken, eggs, those sort of things. I ate that like every single day. But I noticed I wasn't eating as much. I was eating very light, and my portions were super small. But anywho, so basically what I was doing, I found myself just eating small and then taking a rest, reading my book, and then maybe getting up, spending a little bit of time with my daughter, then going back to bed and resting, reading, and doing meditations at night. I mean, that literally became like my life for several months. And, when I look back now, at the time, I wasn't sure of what I was going through. I didn't look up anything online, and I didn't have anything telling me, this is what you're going through if you're experiencing X, Y, and Z. Nothing like that. At the time, I still felt that something was going on, but it needed to go away. And so for me, going through the spiritual awakening the first time, even though I didn't know what it was, it created, as you know, like a lot of the upheaval. Like there's everything that's buried beneath, there's everything that's down deep, things that need to come up and be released or coming up. And for me, I experienced a lot of anxiety, paranoia, and a lot of the stuff, and it kind of just freaked me out at the time. And I kept thinking, something's wrong with me. Like maybe I need to go back on, an antidepressant or something. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up going back to my doctors and getting on a medication, and it really kind of, to an extent, like suppressed, because that's what it does. It like suppresses the emotions, suppresses all of that. And so for a year I was fine. I actually, that following year, I had one of the best years of my life. But however, ding ding ding, I did not know that what I had experienced wasn't the full process. So basically what I had done was stop the process. Now, I am all about, taking care of yourself. Your health and everything should definitely come first. And of course, if you at any time feel like you really need help, you should go seek help, talk to your doctor, etc. However, I have learned that doing what I did really stopped my process of the spiritual awakening, which meant, yes, you're right, I was going to go through it again. So in 2020, that is what happened. And I thought at first it was just like ascension. I thought that I had already gone through awakening, and all that, because in 2019, there was still a lot of learning that was being done. I started to learn about what a spiritual awakening was. I started to learn about, Dark Night of the Soul and all these things. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I experienced, in 2018. That's what I experienced. But in reality, it was just the tip of the iceberg. It was just like a little small part of it, not even the full extent of what I would be going through. So, of course, in 2020, in October, that's when it started again for me. I just kind of went, my world just went boom, kind of toppled upside down, rug being pulled from under you, so to speak. And that's when I started going through it again. And I realized this time around, there was a lot of important things that popped up for me, for my experience. So, of course, emotions are high. If whether you're experiencing anxiety, extreme anxiety, a lot of your deepest fears, things that you suppress within yourself, things that are really down deep rooted, will get brought up. And that's exactly what happened. The anxiety, the fears, a little bit of paranoia here and there, but sometimes it was like depressed feelings too, but a lot of this was all coming up, and it was all needing to be released. It was needing to be recognized, to be honored, and to kind of work through it, you know? And for a while, at first I didn't know exactly if that was what I was going through. I kept questioning it. I kept doubting it. Is this for sure what I'm going through? Is this for sure what it is? And every time I went to the doctors and, you know, I would get medication and all these things, 3 different times, it did not work for me. None of them did. None of them worked. I had either had allergic reaction, or it made my anxiety worse, or it made me really, really sick. So that showed me that was not going to help me this time, and that this time we were going to do it the way that it should have been intended, which was release all of the things that you're feeling, allow it to come up, honor it, and work with it. That's the biggest thing I think I've learned recently, is working with energy and never against it. Because when we work with the energy, we are literally like allowing it to flow better. So it's kind of like, you know, when you're walking a dog, you can just sit there and pull on the leash, you know, and try to drag him along, and it's going to cause you to create a lot of more energy on your part, because you're constantly pulling. Whereas if you were just walking the dog walking the dog together, and the dog was like walking with you, it would be so much easier. And then there's not as much energy that's lost because the dog's walking with you, because it willingly is walking with you. I just learned there's just so many different things, so many factors in that, you know, working with it, never against it, surrendering. The art of surrender is so powerful. When we surrender to life and surrender to the things that we experience, it allows the divine and the universe to kind of get in and do the work and kind of move you along. Like, it's like, you know, just being on a boat in a river, and you're kind of just saying, you know what, I'm going to go with the flow. And you kind of just take a back seat and just allow it to kind of rush through. I learned that is so important, because I did fight it for a while, and what you resist persists. So if you fight it, it's going to keep lingering. It's going to take longer, because you're resisting the change. You're not trusting the process. You're not working with the energy, and you're not releasing. I can't tell you how important it is to allow the things to come up that needs to come up, and if you have to, write it down. And you know, emotionally, if you have to cry, it is the most healing thing that you can do for yourself. Just allow it to happen, allow it to come up, allow it to flow out of you, and just know that what you are doing is healing a part of you. It's actually making the whole process lighter and easier, because you're allowing whatever has been suppressed within your energetic field to come up and be released. And this could be something from a past life. That's another thing I realized too. Like, going through this awakening, I did realize that there were past life, you know, experiences and things that needed to come up and be released. And I can't tell you how important it is to allow it to happen, to just allow that to come up and just let it go, you know? Dreams become more vivid. They become, you could even have lucid dreaming and astral travel and all that. It's so important to write down the dreams, because you may forget them, but they all have like a really important message. There was a couple times, actually like 4 times, that I had a specific dream, and it was so funny because the way the dream was, it was always different scenes, but it was the same concept, like the same message, I should say, the same message was being brought up, and it was just but 4 different ways, but it was the same message with you know, the same person. But it just made me realize that, you know, our guides and, you know, our spirit team, they're always working for us, trying to help us, trying to show us that yes, You know, they are there, they're guiding you along, and they're trying to give you the messages, relaying the messages the best way, easiest way that they can, on your vibrational level. So that's another thing to keep in mind and to do. Write down those dreams, because you will have dreams and they will be vivid and they will be just amazing, but it's important to kind of write down so you can kind of get information from that, looking up the meaning and trying to understand, you know, what resonates with you when you look up these meanings and such. Another thing too, going through the spiritual awakening, I know it's hard for people to understand what you're going through, because to the outside world, you're gonna look maybe a little bit, you know, kind of crazy, so to speak, but you're not. In reality, like, everything that's happening is meant to be happening, and it is perfectly normal. You know, your soul had signed this contract to come to Earth and have this experience, to do this healing work, you know. You are a light worker, you know, maybe some type of healer. There's a reasoning behind why you're going through the spiritual awakening, and it is spiritually aligned. You know, you are a light worker. You are here to help with the ascension process of bringing up the vibration of the world and spreading light and love and kindness and kind of being the way shower. And it's so important to allow this experience to happen, because this is something that your soul signed up for. And it's, you know, it might be one of the hardest experiences and things you ever have to go through, but in the end, it is worth it, and you will thank yourself later. You won't understand it in the midst of the storm, but after the storm, you will see the rainbow, and it will be so amazing, and you'll be very thankful that you went through it, because there's so much that you have learned, so much knowledge you've gained, and so much healing you have done, so much releasing and, you know, unlearning and relearning and uncovering of so much different things. So yes, it's tough, but it's worth it. So just trust the process and know that you're not alone. There are so many people that are going through it with you. And, you know, 2020 was the year of the mass awakening. I think that's probably why I experienced what I did, and also why I kind of felt things so much. You know, I tend to feel things a lot, and I realized that this shift that's occurring is just like so powerful. And people, there's still this like tug of war kind of going on, this like push and pull of these energies with the new energies that are coming in onto this planet. So, you know, there's just so much to be learned. And I think in this lifetime, in our lives, we never stop learning. There's always something else to be learned. And there's always, you know, another higher level to reach. You know, I kind of joke around, but at the same time kind of serious when I say, I'm like, life is kind of like a Mario game. It's kind of like one of those games where you're just going along and you're trying to level up. You're going through life trying to like defeat or get rid of, stay away from the bad guys, and, you know, collect the good stuff, get the rewards, and keep going, and then level up. And then same process happens. You learn a lesson, you go through all these things, and then you level up. You know, it's kind of, you know, just this unraveling and constant, you know, growing, and life gives you these opportunities to grow. And there's all these people around who are kind of those like catalysts to help you grow. Like, there's so much to be learned, and the people that are around us, the people that are in our lives, everything is there for a reason. And if we kind of shift our perspective and look at life that way, it becomes more of like a book, and we become more interested, vice shielding off and just kind of like, you know, just ridding of experiences and ridding of things that we don't like. If we come from a perspective of learning and wanting to learn and figure out what the lesson is, life becomes a lot more interesting, and it becomes a lot more manageable and easier too. So shifting the perspective is definitely huge as well. But so enough of all that. That's a little bit about my story and where I am now, getting into my personal power and realizing so much about myself and realizing what it is that I'm meant to do and why I'm here. It's so powerful. We all, as light workers, go through, or at some point end up going through this, and that's the whole purpose, is to remember who you are, remember why you came here and what your purpose is here, because we all have a purpose. We all have a purpose. It's just our job and our journey to discover it. So when you're going through the spiritual awakening, there's different stages and levels of it. There is a dark night of the soul, which kind of puts you in this place of you're questioning a lot about just everything going on in your life. You're really like, all of the things, all of the dirt and everything that's buried deep starts to come up. And it really does feel like a dark kind of place, because everything is just being brought up and you're kind of like, what is this? What is this? What is this? Why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? And it can be very like draining and dragging, but it's basically the ego. Your ego is diminishing. And the ego is that loud, that, attention getting, voice, inside your head, that kind of just wants and craves the drama, the attention, wants and craves the answers, is the chatty, the little chatty voice. But it's basically the diminishing of that. And when that kind of slowly starts to diminish, it freaks out. It gets upset. It causes a lot of like this, uneasiness, because it's like a part of you that is like being taken away. But the ego isn't really what makes you you. The ego, once the ego is silent, and once that you have more control over the ego, it's like an unraveling. It's like you become like a completely different person, but you become more at peace and more centered, and you see life totally differently. Whereas when you're in the ego, there's always like, I don't want to say this, but it's like so much like negativity, there's just so much like control. And I feel like once the ego is like diminished, and it's like, you kind of have grip over that, and you kind of you recognize that, where the ego is, and like how it tries to play its role in your life, your life becomes so much more easier, But it's one of those stages that it's one of the toughest, but it really, really, really is a time of just allowing these, like I said, these emotions, these feelings, everything that's coming up to be processed. Recognize it. And what I always say is try to become the role of the observer. Try to detach yourself from the thoughts, the negative thoughts, everything that's coming up. Try to detach yourself from it. So when you see these thoughts floating by, you recognize them, you acknowledge it, and then you allow it to go. But don't attach to it. You're just like, okay. And you're just allowing it to go. Just recognizing it, allowing it to pass through. Do not attach to it. Do not try to create a story. The ego loves to like create a story around these things and freak out about all these things that are coming up. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in that. Just detach, separate from it, and just see it for what it is. All of these things that are swirling around, just separate from it, and you will see a huge change just in just if you keep practicing that and keep implementing that every single time all these things come up. And another thing too, just write it down. Like if you have to, get it all out, just get it all out and release it. Keep saying it in your heart to yourself out loud. You're releasing all this. You are releasing this, I release this to the divine. I release this into the divine light. I purify and transmute this energy, all of this into the divine. Call on your archangels and, angels, whoever you pray to. Call upon them and have them help you to assist you with this transition, because they are always there for you. That's one of the best things I can tell you about the spiritual awakening. One of the best things was having all of these signs that I received from my guides, from the angels, archangels, universe, my ancestors. All of these signs that I received was so supportive, and it just made me so well aware that they were there for me, even in the worst of the times. Like, you know, even when I was feeling at my lowest, when I was feeling completely out of it and wasn't sure about what the future was going to hold, wasn't sure about myself in that moment, I knew by having those signs and seeing those signs and recognizing them that they were there for me always, every step of the journey. And it's so just gratifying, so amazing. I'm truly, truly grateful for that. And the biggest thing is to recognize it, to become aware of it, you know, because it's the littlest things. I had a ladybug land on me. That was one of my signs. And at the time, I was just freaking out. I was like, oh my God, you know. But when I looked it up, and the meaning, it, you know, first of all, it talked about great luck, like super good luck for a ladybug to land on you. And they even say like to make a wish when it happens. And just being like really good fortune, good things to come, you know, when that happens. That was amazing. And, you know, of course, seeing cardinals, seeing bluebirds, and just all of those things, you know, like finding coins and hearing the songs from my loved ones on the other side. Like, it's just so many different things that I can't even begin to explain, just on another level. These signs were so amazing. And I want you to keep an open mind and recognize that they are going to give you signs, and especially if you ask for it, if you ask for their help, if you pray to them, you know, and be thankful for those signs. Thank them for that, you know, and, you know, ask for more if you want more signs, because truly, honestly, truly, it did help me so much on my journey, because it kept reminding me that, hey, you're going through this for a reason. We're on the other side. We see you. We're like, you know, we're here. We're so close to you. But we see it. We see your journey. We see it. It's all going to be good. You know, keep it up. Continue. I kept feeling that, you know, even when I was going through all the stuff I was going through, and it felt like I was going nowhere at sometimes. And that can happen, you know, during your spiritual awakening. I know it's different for everyone, but you can literally feel like you're at a standstill, and that life has just kind of just blocked you, like put a huge, you know, cement block right in front of you. But just keep going, and it kind of reminds you of that, you know, to just, hey, keep on going, you know, like they're waving flags of like, yes, you're doing it, you're doing amazing, you know. And I loved that, I really did, because it, like I said, it helped propel me forward. It helped getting me, you know, to keep pushing on regardless of what was going on, you know, within me, and, you know, in my head, and all of those things, like everything. And the most important thing to recognize too is that what we see with our eyes, what we see, isn't always what's going on. Like, there are things that are going on around us energetically. Energy, because everything is energy. And, you know, we can't see most of all the things that are happening around us, the energy shifts, the changes, the things that are occurring on the outside. Like, we don't see all of these things that are happening, but these things are happening for a reason. They're happening for the, you know, the greatest and highest good. Your soul came here for a purpose, for lessons to be learned, for growth. That's the biggest thing, for growth. And you know, so your soul, your higher self knows what it's doing, and your team, your guides are there in support, and they signed up, you know, for this too, to be with you at this time for your journey. So they know what's going on. They know you can handle this. They know you're going to do well. You can do it. So keep the faith and keep believing that, yes, there is something greater to come from this. Something you have no idea, just so amazing to come for you, because you were meant to go through this. You were meant to do this work. So I encourage you to keep that faith and to keep going, no matter what, no matter how tough it might seem. I've been there too, trust me. And a lot of spiritual teachers here can say the same thing. You know, it's not an easy road, but you can get through it, and you will, and you have support. And there's a lot of us spiritual teachers who are here to support you and help guide you through it. You know, nowadays with the internet and everything we have access to, it's amazing the information we can find out within an instant. I mean, so can you just imagine people, you know, in the past that didn't have access to the internet that might have been going through a spiritual awakening. You know, it's just, it's amazing, you know, how much we've changed and how much, you know, our world and everything has just grown since then so much, you know, technology wise. And then also through, when you're going through the spiritual awakening, there's, like I said, there's stages. And then after the dark night of the soul, you could also have moments of like, you know, just where things start to feel like, you know, good. Like you might have blissful moments. You might have these moments of like epiphanies, and you might start to have real big realizations, major aha moments where you're like, oh my God, I feel like da 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 da, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is why this happened, this is why this happened. And then you start to like, you start getting like pieces of puzzles, in a sense. That's how I like to explain it. Like you get these pieces of puzzles and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is why this, and this is why that, and this makes this. And you literally just, it's like you're putting together like a big, you know, jigsaw puzzle, and you're starting to realize that all of these things that are happening are, you know, happening at just like, you know, way faster rate. And you realize that it's all so much bigger than you. You realize that all of these things you play a special part in, but it's all so bigger than you. Like there's something bigger going on. It's truly amazing. But you might have those kinds of moments. They don't always last forever. You know, that stage, it doesn't last a long time, but it's good to kind of experience, especially after you go through such a like hard, you know, difficult time. And then also there's the void. And in the void, it's kind of like the holding space, because there's still things that are needing to be worked out. There's still things that you need to see or realize or understand, or even learn. And sometimes this process can go on for a long time, several months to even a year. It kind of just depends on the person and where they're at in their life and their stage, you know, with the process. But during these times, you could also feel like you're kind of stuck or stagnant. You know, you might feel like you're not really going anywhere, nothing's really working out for you, or you're kind of just unsure about everything. And, you know, there might be a lot of like indecision about what your next step is, or, you know, what you're supposed to be doing next. And all of this is meant to just kind of get you to really focus within, and trying to get you to not just look at the signs that are around you, but to like start talking to your soul, to yourself, reconnecting with your soul. During the spiritual awakening, it's so beneficial to meditate. And I would say that as like a number one thing, meditation, and of course, you know, doing a lot of the grounding exercises to get yourself in your body, in your spirit, because your spirit might be trying to flee. It, you know, has this, like I said, this push-pull effect. So grounding your energy, grounding yourself in your body is one of the most important things that you can do. For me, that is something I've learned just recently, of how important it is to stay grounded within our energy body. And again, meditation is so important. We need to reconnect with ourselves, reconnect with our higher self, our soul. And once we have that guidance, everything just will kind of start to fall into place for us. So super, super important. Two of the things that everybody should be doing, you know, during the time of spiritual awakening: meditating, grounding exercises. This is also a time for spiritual learning. You know, you might be guided or feel guided to read certain books, to research certain things. A lot of it is just, you know, there's so much information out there. And again, I don't think we can learn it all in one lifetime. And there's just so much. But, you know, we can all get a handle on it. And you start to realize there are certain people that have their own niche, like their own, or niche. Is it niche or niche? Anyways, they have their own thing that really, like, that's why that they were here. They were here to discover this, or to talk about this, and, you know, tell about this. And it just all kind of forms that big puzzle, that big picture, you know, all these little things that are just so, so important. So, you know, you might be guided to do a lot of those things, and it's good to continue to do that and to look into where you feel drawn to. I also highly recommend even joining some support groups. There's a lot of spiritual awakening channels and groups, even on social media, that you can really relate to, a lot of these people, because believe it or not, some of your family family friends who do not go through a spiritual awakening may not be very supportive, because they're not going to understand your level of consciousness. As you awaken, you're awakening to truth, you're expanding your consciousness, you're shedding layers, you're shedding the old, the outdated, and you're making way for the new. So a lot of the times they're coming from a different level of consciousness, and they're not going to hear what you're saying. They're not going to understand. So there's going to be like some kind of wall, when you're talking to them, they're just not going to understand. So it's good to have that support of people that, people in a community, or that you can talk to about these things. It's so important to have that support. So definitely reach out, like I said, and, subscribe to the channels and reach out where you can. Also, there is another stage where it's like the grounding stage. You kind of like get rooted into where you are. You become very, very, very encompassed in your energy. Like you own who you are, you own your power, and you start discovering what it is that you're doing, why you were meant, why you were here. And you have these interests, and you kind of start working towards that, but you become so much more grounded within yourself, within your energy, and you just kind of become this free spirit, literally, because you're just embracing all of you, all that is you. And this stage can last, for several years. It's also a stage where, you're not 100% in doing what you're doing yet. You're just kind of working towards that. You're starting to like get ideas, and you're starting to just kind of like be open to everything that you're experiencing, and realizing that, yes, this is real. Yes, this is what I'm meant to be experiencing. This is meant for my path. I know what I'm going to be getting into, just realizations, but you're so grounded in yourself and in your body, because you're doing a lot of the spiritual work. You're doing a lot of the stuff, and you're putting it into practice. So that can last several years as well. And then, of course, last, final, and foremost is kind of like when you start really stepping into your power, and you're just in what you're supposed to be doing. You're serving others. You're really at your kind of like all-time best, in a sense. There's so much peace within you. And that's like another like higher level, but the spiritual awakening itself, like in a greater sense, it lasts so many years. I don't think it's one kind of like one and done deal where it's like, oh, you spiritually awakened, okay, this lasted for 1 year, this entire process, all of these stages, all right, you're done now, life is grand. I don't think it's like that. I think, even if you get to that place of, having, achieved all of these things and gone through all of these things, I still feel like there's always like a leveling up. There's always going to be challenges that you have to face, and there's always constant, climbing the ladder, so to speak. You're climbing this, ladder of ascension, and going through the changes, going through all of these things, and there's always going to be something else on the other side of it, and there's going to be good times and bad times, and it's kind of just how you roll with it. Yep, and I think that's all I think I really wanted to talk about with the spiritual awakening. I'm going to look through my notes really quickly just to see if there's anything else that I really wanted to talk about in here. There's a couple more things I wanted to say. So a couple of things that you might experience going through this awakening is you might feel very, very lost or disconnected. But in reality, you're not. You're just disconnecting on an energetic level, because your soul is being upgraded. Your energy and everything's being upgraded. You'll be experiencing a lot of energetic downloads from the divine, and it's a lot for your body to handle. So you'll feel tired a lot of the time. And again, you're feeling disconnected because it takes your body physically a lot longer to adjust to the influx of the upgrades and, you know, changes that your body's experiencing when you're going through the awakening. It's easy for your soul. Your soul, it's just like, whoop, you know, and you're there and you can, you know, you realize things, but it's like your body, it's a little bit harder because it's more physical, you know. Another thing too, you're going to awaken and to a lot of truths. You're going to uncover a lot of truths about the life around you. You're going to see past the veil, so to speak. You're going to see a lot past the illusions, and you know, you'll get a glimpse of the bigger picture. You'll be able to like perceive when people are lying to you. You're going to be able to tell right away if somebody has a problem with you. Like energetically, energy doesn't lie. So you will be able to literally feel these things on a bigger level, and it's amazing, you know. But it's just one of those things that's like, it just uncovers so much truth. You'll really know when somebody is not your person. You'll like know, like the vibes are just going to tell you yes, no, and follow those vibes. Again, because energy does not lie. Excuse me. Of course, you're going to be purging a lot of pent-up emotions, experiences, things you thought you might have processed before, but you didn't. You'll be doing a lot of shadow work, working on healing your inner self. And that's like one of the hugest things. I don't even know why I didn't mention it. Hugest things that you'll uncover. Doing shadow work. What is shadow work? Shadow work is the things we don't want to look at, you know, about ourselves. The dark, hidden things, hidden aspects that we don't really see clearly and dive into, but that we need to heal and need to work on. This could be, you know, things as simple as, you know, people having, you know, if you have jealousy issues, you know, abandonment issues. That's one thing I went through, is like I did realize, like even from a, you know, past life, that I had abandonment issues that popped up for me. So it kind of made sense as to why I did things a certain way in my life and how I lived my life a certain way. So a lot of those things can come up too, you know, having abandonment issues, having childhood trauma, past life trauma. There's just so many different things that can come up, and it's good for it to be released, good to be recognized, and doing the work to release it and constantly speaking it out, letting it go, letting it happen, recognizing it, acknowledging it, honoring it. But overall, release it, doing that work. It's so good to do that. Because again, that just propels you forward. It's like layers, peeling off layers of an onion, you know, getting to the core. You're peeling off all these things, and all it is healing. It's all a part of the healing process. Also, soul searching. So you're really like searching for the true meaning in your life and finding your purpose. That's one of the biggest things with spiritual awakening, is you start to really have a bigger, deeper search for what life is about, the purpose of life, why you're here. You know, everything is so deep for you. You start to realize that things that used to matter don't matter anymore. And you want to work towards having like this deeper meaning, deeper connections. You know, you start to crave all those things. You know, you crave authenticity. You know, you see past, again, you see past the illusions, you see past all the negativity, you see the negativity, but you don't want that, and you want to stay out of that. You want to be away from the drama, and you just crave to be in the light, in love, you know, surrounded in love and positivity, and you really just crave to get to where you're meant to be, doing what you're meant to be doing. Of course, I said this before, but you'll be guided to read a lot of spiritual books, a lot of spiritual teachings, and you may even discover many inner healing works and things that you can do to really help yourself, that are all part of the process to getting through the spiritual awakening. You're gonna learn that there are things you can do naturally to help yourself that doesn't take any kind of you know, medication, everything that's just like kind of natural to you. Like a lot of the stuff would be holistic, so to speak, healing that you can do. But just follow your intuition. You'll also develop a relationship with your intuition if you allow it, and your intuition will really guide you and help you move in an easy, more comfortable way. I would highly recommend, you know, just doing, like I said, a lot of meditations and just trusting that inner voice, you know, really kind of quieting yourself and kind of going within to hear those answers and get those answers from yourself, because you will be guided through it, you know, no matter what. I think that's really about it. Another just couple side tips that I just want to talk about and just emphasize that I might have already said is to really surrender to the process. Do not resist the awakening. As much as you can, do not resist the awakening. You know, keep telling yourself everything is okay. My soul is in command. My soul knows what it's doing. You know, everything is good. Everything is going to work out as it should. And I know it is. And work with your heart. Learn to work with it and listen to it. The heart is a great healer. The heart is, you know, the center, the seat of your soul. And, you know, once you start working and tuning into it, you will find that all of the answers reside here. And, you know, it's so important to kind of emphasize too, your heart is all love. Like when you think about it, in the core of your being is the heart. And it is all love. All it knows is love. And that's where we can get all of the truth in our heart. So it's really important to work with that, and just remember that. Quieting your mind, detaching from the mind, you know, and again, observing of the thoughts, because you are not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions or your feelings. You are not that. That is not who you are. It is what you experience, but it is not who you are. That is something so key to remember. Write it down, underline it, highlight it. You are not your thoughts. And once you realize that, you gain like a bigger understanding, like you have this like bigger power over like of yourself, because you realize that these things that you experience really have no attachment to you. Our ego tries to create these attachments and create these stories and these things, these false narratives, but they're not true. And once you realize that these things are not you, it becomes less of a burden and less of a struggle, because you realize that it's like an illusion. It's not, you know, the case. It's not the truth. And also just constantly refocus your brain, like refocus your mind when these negative things happen. Just refocus it, you know, release as much as you can, but try to refocus yourself. Refocus if you have to, you know, do a meditation, you know, refocus on all the good things, you know, that, you know, you experience throughout the day, or, you know, just try to put something that makes you feel good, you know, refocusing the thoughts and not allowing them to take over. Focus on your breathing, focus on your, you know, tuning into your heart. What I like to do too is I always like to visualize like the white light coming down and showering me, cleansing my chakras, cleansing my energy. And that's a great way, great way to really help yourself during this process. Spiritual awakening, I feel like that's another top, you know, 10 thing to do is cleanse your energy, cleanse yourself, cleanse your space. When you're going through the spiritual awakening, it is just that. It's spiritual. You literally are going to be diving deep into your spiritual self. You're getting connected to your soul. And you're going to be doing, and you're going to learn, you're going to have to do a lot of these spiritual practices, because when you do them, you're going to feel your best. So cleansing your energy, cleansing your space, that's one thing to really try to do when you're going through this too. Especially if you're still working, you're still going to school or doing other things, you're going to realize you're going to be picking up other people's energies. You know, cleanse your energy. And it doesn't hurt either to work with crystals. That's another thing I started to do. You might find that that's something that you might resonate with as well. working with crystals and realizing that a lot of these crystals and everything are just so amazing. I love to wear this is my selenite necklace with my black obsidian for protection, but I love a lot of like working with crystals. They're so magnificent, and you'll realize too that when you start working with them, they just have so much power and just amazing, give off amazing energy. So definitely you might find working with crystals to be very beneficial too. You can keep them in your pocket, you know, you can wear it as jewelry, you know, bracelets, rings, whatever. Even keep them in your car. You'll find that you'll just fall in love with them like I do, and just keep them all around your house because they're just so beautiful, uplifting, and you know, distribute really great energy. So highly recommend looking into that if you resonate with it as well. But yes, that is kind of in a nutshell, like the awakening process of what to expect, what you will experience. For every person, it's so different because you know, every person's unique and every person's journey is unique. You know, in the bigger picture, you know, you do realize that, yeah, it is a tough time. We all can recognize that it's going to be a really tough time. You'll think that you're going crazy. You think that you'll be like, you know, dealing with a lot of stuff that just, you know, kind of is chaotic. You're going to feel like your world is kind of crumbling down around you. But in reality, it's just preparing you for the next level, you know, on your journey. And you'll also realize too, you might be gifted with a lot of like psychic abilities, and you might experience a lot of, you know, just signs from the angels. You might see glimpses of light, sparkles of light. You might see their names, and just like there's just so many different experiences you could get. But your abilities will be enhanced or awakened, or even if you've never had them or never noticed them before, you will start to have them all of a sudden, and it's incredible. It's truly incredible. But just know that all of this is for the greater good. It's easy to get caught up in the unknown and to kind of resist going forward because you're scared of the unknown, or you're afraid to go forward because it's always a mystery. The unknown is what we don't see, and it's hidden, and it can be kind of scary at times. But when you know that you have your guides and your archangels and angels working alongside you, you know that it can only be good. It can only be good because they're right there with you. They're walking it with you. They're walking through this path of the unknown with you, and they're allowing these experiences to come into play to get you to realize that, one, they are there. Two, you were made for this journey, and it is going to be okay. All is well. And that everything is always okay, no matter what. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in your heart. I thank you so much for watching my video today. Again, if you haven't, please subscribe and hit the like button to show support. I will be uploading a lot more videos of different spiritual practices, things that I do to help myself, things that you can do to help yourself get spiritually fit and live a better and healthier life. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.